Procrastination stops so many of us from living our life to the fullest because deep down, we are not just putting off a task or something we feel like we have to do. We're putting off things we know would change our life. We say we'll start when we're ready or on Monday or when the timing is right. But let's be honest, most of the time, that's just fear and resistance in disguise. So today we are diving in to why we procrastinate and how to finally get around it, because there is so much waiting for you on the other side of it. And understanding why we procrastinate is truly the first step in overcoming it. And a lot of people think that delaying an action will make them feel better, and maybe temporarily it does. But long term, the more that you delay this project or something that you want to do, it just ends up building even more stress. And our brain is wired to prioritize short-term comfort over long-term growth. And so at the surface level, procrastination is your brain avoiding discomfort, but if you dig even deeper, it's really rooted in these four other things. And the first one is limiting beliefs. So those sneaky thoughts that you hear in your mind that are saying, what if I fail? What if it's not perfect? Who am I to even do this? Someone else should be doing it. And here's the kicker. A lot of the times we're not avoiding the task. We're avoiding what we think that task might prove about us, that we're not enough, that we're not ready, that we're not capable. And I think even in my own life, I look at so many things that I have procrastinated and ended up not doing because of these limiting beliefs in my head of not feeling good enough or worthy of going for it. And then I look back later on and I'm like, wow, if I just thought that I was worthy of it, or if I just was able to overcome those beliefs in the past, I would have accomplished all of that already. The second point is this fear of change. So we say we want a new life, but the second that change starts to happen, it feels unfamiliar and uncomfortable, and we start to panic a little bit because even good change can freak us out because it's something that we're not used to. So again, we're used to the things that are comfortable, that we're used to the things that feel like safety to us. And so when we are getting out of our comfort zone and we are trying something new and our life is changing, even if it is good change, it still feels unfamiliar and a little bit scary to us. The third point is overwhelm or lack of clarity. So when something feels too big, too vague, like it's gonna take too much time, or like there's so many steps, your brain just taps out. But here's the truth. No matter what, that time will be passing anyways. And so I always love to think about it like this of, okay, the time's gonna pass anyways. Do you wanna be doing the things that you wanna do? Or do you wanna look back and be like, oh, I wish I just started months ago or years ago? And it's also just like the quote that is like, how do you eat an elephant? And they say one bite at a time. And this just always is such a great reminder that you do not need to have it all figured out to go for it. Like all you need is that first step. All you need is to get clarity on that first step and just go for it and not think too hard into it. And then the fourth point is perfectionism. So this is when you're waiting for the right moment or the perfect idea or just for more inspiration. But I've learned that the longer that you wait, the less likely it is that you'll ever start. And so momentum doesn't just come from waiting, it comes from action. And so a lot of the times it is about being like, you know what? Things aren't gonna look perfect and that's okay. And I'm gonna go for it regardless and trust that once I start going for things, I can perfect it as I go. And here's another big truth, and that is perfectionism isn't just something you are putting off, it's pushing your dream life further away. And every time that you delay, you're putting distance between where you are and where you want to be. And the life that you say you want, it is right there on the other side that you have been avoiding. And that has been the biggest wake-up call for me of the things that I was procrastinating, the things that I was not going for were really just waiting for me to just take that first step. And once I stopped procrastinating, once I stopped going for it, there were so many routes and so many things that were able to open up for me. And all I needed to do was take that first step. And so now I want to get into how to stop procrastinating, because obviously it is so much easier said than done. And we could be like, okay, Cady, we get it. Stop procrastinating, but how do we do that? And so the first really important aspect of this is shifting your mindset and how you see procrastination. And my first mindset shift is recognizing that you are not lazy. So I was talking to a client recently who was calling herself lazy as her excuse for not going for things. She's just like, well, I'm just lazy. That's why I haven't done all of these things, which was so far off from the truth. And I see so many people use this excuse for not going for it when in reality, they just feel overwhelmed or they feel unclear or they just it's like a limiting belief coming in, or like that fear of change. And so they're choosing this imaginary safety instead. And so it's just really separating yourself from this mindset of being lazy, because that is not who anyone is. That is just like a habit or a characteristic that we often take on. The second mindset shift is breaking out of this all or nothing mindset. So you do not need to have it all figured out for you to go for it. And so often people think that we need to have 20 steps ready. Like, okay, these are the 20 things that I'm going to do in order before I go for it. When in reality, when you start, that 10th step is going to look so different than you might have actually imagined it in your head in the first place. And so that is why I always say all we need to do is figure out that first step. And as you go, gradually you can figure out the steps as time goes, and you can start small, you can start slow, but as long as you're starting, that should be celebrated. And honestly, that is how I have started so many things in my life. This podcast, a clothing brand in high school, and now an app that I'm working on. And I've just reminded myself that I can figure things out as I go and improve as I go and learn by just going for it. And so it really is about being like, you know what, I'm committing to going for this thing, and I trust that the steps will come along as the way, and I trust that I can learn along the way. And so some great affirmations for this is you do not need a full plan, you just need one first step, and that it is safe to try and not be perfect. And that is truly how you learn and grow. And so now that we have the mindset shifts, I think it's really helpful to actually have tools to try and put this into action. And the first one is the Mel Robbins 5-second rule. So just counting down from 5 and just starting. And so you want to, for example, clean your room. You're like, okay, in 5 seconds, I'm just going to count down and start going for it. I want to start this project in 5 seconds. I'm just going to count down and just start going for it. And this really just doesn't allow you to overthink it, because so often what happens with this procrastination is we get so in our head and we're just overthinking. And rather than actually just going for it, we are living in our heads, and that's what really stops us from going for it. And so when you just count down, you don't allow yourself to get so caught up into all of that thinking. The next tool is breaking it down. And so asking yourself, what is the smallest step that I can take today? So make it short and easy and set those small goals for yourself. And it also just feels so great when you are checking those things off of your list, and it motivates you to get even more done. And it's like, wait, look, I can do this. I can take that first step. That means that I can keep going on and continue going on. And I think that that is where the momentum comes. The third tool is to reward yourself. So set up little dopamine hits when you finish, even something simple like a walk or a coffee or a break, because I know sometimes even just hitting that little milestone might not feel like everything, but when you reward it with something else, you're like, okay, look, like now I get to reward myself and I check something off my box. And then the fourth, is it 4? I think it's, yeah. The fourth one is visualizing the relief. And so imagining how good it will feel when it's done and you no longer are, it's like hanging over you. And so growing up, I was the type of kid that would get home and be like, I need to finish my homework immediately, because I knew that once I finished it, I would be able to do whatever I wanted and not have to deal with that anxiety of having to get it done. And so visualizing that feeling of what it would be like for you to get it done and be like, okay, that is my motivation. Like I want to feel like that, and I don't want to have to deal with this anymore. And then from a coaching perspective, these are also some great questions to ask yourself when it comes to not procrastinating. And the first one is, what am I afraid of will happen if I actually do this? Because again, a lot of the times there are these things in our mind that come in that are like, oh, my life is going to change this way, or things are going to be different, and that's why I'm not going for it. The second question is, am I procrastinating because I don't care, or because I care so much that I'm scared to mess it up? Because so often I also hear people being like, well, whatever, I don't care how it goes. Like, I don't care, that's why I'm not going for it. And they act like that's not something that they want to go for, when in reality, they really do care. And they're just more afraid of what would happen if it doesn't go the way that they want it to go. The third question is, what if it's not about finishing, but proving to yourself that you can start? And so this is such a great shift of, sometimes it's not always about looking at that final destination, but also just proving to yourself, hey, look, like I can do these things, I can go for it, and I can start things that I'm putting off. And I think even when you just start it without thinking too much about it is when things end up falling into place and you end up again building that momentum. So take that pressure off. You can start messy. You can figure it out as you go, and you don't need to have every single thing figured out before you go for it. And the last reminder I want to leave you with is procrastination is a habit. It's not your identity. It is not who you are. And the more that you start proving to yourself that you can take small, imperfect actions, the less power it has over you. So I want you to ask yourself, what's one thing that I can do today to stop procrastinating on the things that I know matter to me? What is that first step that I can start taking today? And if you're feeling excited about it and want an accountability partner, my DMs are always open at Happiness by Cady.